Hello and welcome back to RC Video Reviews. Today we're taking a look at the Vanquish Mark II from Extreme Flight. All right, hopefully you've been following along with the channel, and you know I recently got my hands on this little F3A Skylark from Value Hobby, and I've been flying this around at the field lately and having a great time with it. Because the flight characteristics of pattern planes turned out to be so much different than regular sport planes, I decided I wanted to take a harder look at pattern flying and a pattern plane. So I went out and did the reading, and I landed on this Vanquish by Extreme Flight. Okay, after I put the Vanquish in my cart and bought it, I went back and looked at the website and saw that they were out of stock. So I immediately called Extreme Flight and I said, hey, you guys aren't out of those, are you? And they said, yeah, we're out of stock. And it turns out I got the last one. And I said, are you going to get more? And they said, oh yeah, absolutely, we're going to get more. The reason I wanted to clarify that is because I have a nose for finding the last of an airplane. And before going through the whole review process on this plane, I thought it'd be a good idea for me to make sure that it would be available. And Zach at Extreme Flight assured me that it would be restocked. So this is not a plane they intend on stopping production on anytime soon. And by the way, if you go out and look at the forums, like on RC groups, you'll find a long history on this plane. And over time, they do go out of stock and replenish. So I have every belief at this point that they will restock this plane. Okay, so with that in mind, let's get into the plane a little bit. If you follow pattern flying at all, you know that there's a class, it's a 2-meter class. So that's a huge, huge plane. This is just a 48-inch wingspan. So it's not a full 2-meter, what they call pattern ship, but it is definitely an F3A pattern plane. That's what it's designed for. The wingspan, again, 48 inches, and the weight is 44 to 48 ounces. I can tell you, when I unpacked it, that's one of the very first things that hit me was, my gosh, this thing is light. This is definitely one of those builds where weight was a primary consideration, no question about that. They recommend a 3542 class motor, 820 kV. They call it a Torque 2814. Well, it just so happened I had an SK3 3542 800 in my stash. So I'm going to give this motor a try. I'm going to try the 12.6 prop they recommend with it. I'm going to put it on the judge and make sure it makes the power that it needs to make for this plane. And if it does, I'm going to put it in the plane and try it out. If not, I've got my eye on a couple of other motors. There's an equivalent Sunny Sky motor, and there's also, of course, a Cobra motor that I would take a look at to fill the power requirements on this plane. But I think this SK3 will probably do it. Extreme Flight recommends a 12.6 Falcon, which I think is a wood prop, or a APC 12x6 electric. So I've got APC props. I'm going to start with that. I've seen in the threads some guys like 12.8, some like 11.7, so there's some variation in there. And they also recommend a 45 amp ESC and a 4S 22 to 2700 milliamp hour battery. So because it looks like, based on the comments I read in the groups, that 2200 flight time is a little short for being able to complete the pattern, this plane might be better suited to use a 2700 milliamp hour battery. So I went ahead and ordered some nanotechs from Hobby King, and I expect those to be hopefully here within a week or so. I am waiting for a spinner and an ESC. Those are coming from out of town. As you know, with the things going on with the virus, it's a little slow getting shipments. I do have the remaining equipment on the way, so definitely appreciate your patience as I work through doing what I can to get material to review. It's just things are a little slow out there right now. Okay, so those are the basic specs on the plane. Let's get into it. When I first unwrapped this plane, regarding the packaging, they did an excellent job on packaging. Everything was covered in plastic. It was all separated by cardboard layers where it needed to be. The canopy had a very light tissue paper around the glass, so there's no marring or scratching on the canopy at all. It just looks fantastic. They use these carbon fiber supports to go from the fuselage out to the end of the motor box for extra support and for weight savings. And by the way, they use a lot of carbon fiber in this plane, and I'll show you those parts as we get to them. Take a look at that canopy and the fuselage. It is just beautiful. And this is one of the more intricate monocoque designs I've seen on an ARF. So while this plane is a little bit more expensive than what you'll normally find from mainstream vendors like Tower or Horizon, you can tell that there was There's a different level of care that's put into the assembly of this ARF. There's no doubt in my mind about that. You can just tell by looking at things like the quality of the trim scheme. Every one of those intricate little lines lines up perfectly. No bubbles, no wrinkles. I mean, I looked it over and there's no work to do with an iron. Another thing I want to point out too is that the rudder is an actual airfoil rudder. It's not a flat piece, and I'll show you that on the elevator as well, but that is an airfoil rudder. The fuselage is absolutely beautiful. So that's the starboard side. Let me show you the port side and then we'll pop the canopy off and take a look inside. All right, and there's the port side of the plane. Just beautiful. The vertical stabilizer is built in, so you don't have to install that, which is nice because it's kind of important to make sure those are super straight, especially if you want to use the plane for something like this plane is intended to be used for, and that's precision aerobatics. So vertical stabilizer's in. The rudder is pre-slotted and pre-hinged, but you do have to glue it in place. And you can see the slots are already cut out for the horizontal stabilizer and the elevator. So that work's already done. And they do a beautiful job cutting out the openings too. I'm not sure if they used a knife. It actually looks like there's some heat there, so they might use some kind of heating element like a soldering iron. And then the holes on the side, of course, are the carbon fiber tube, servo wires, and alignment pins for the incidents on the wing. And then there's a slot up here for the carbon fiber landing gear, which I'll show you. Very trick. All right, let's pop this canopy off. I'll tell you another thing that I noticed when I first put my hands on it. They put some kind of tubing up on the top on that pin, but the mechanical mechanism, see, I've had lots of problems with these in the past. In a more mass-produced model, the workmanship just isn't this nice. This is it feels like a very quality hinge. There's no glue gumming up the mechanism, and it's got an absolutely positive lock on the canopy. Again, yes, this plane is a little bit more expensive, but from what I can see, the workmanship rises to the level. And I've told you guys before, I don't mind spending the money as long as I get the value for it. And based on what I'm seeing in the build, the value is there on this airframe. There's no doubt about it. Okay, take a look inside. There's a look at the battery tray. Huge battery tray. Looks like a lot of room to get your balance where you want it. And I think that's what they intended. And then if you look on the side, I'm not sure what that material is. I'm not sure if that's fiberglass or what, but it's obvious to me that that is done for purposes of ensuring precision incidence, which is really important on a plane like this. You have to make sure that your incidence is correct. All the way throughout the fuselage, it's kind of hard to point this out, but you see those black straps down there? They look like carbon fiber. I'm not going to take the plane apart to figure it out, but it sure looks like carbon fiber to me. And that goes all the way back. I mean, that goes all the way back to the table. So again, this isn't your typical ARF, guys. This is a quality plane, absolutely a quality plane. I'm just looking at the inside and admiring the workmanship on this. They have done a beautiful job with this airplane. And it looks very well put together, and it's ridiculously light. And everywhere that there's a joint, they use this, it looks like it's some kind of plastic reinforcement. If you know what this is, I'd like to know. But it's definitely, I don't think it's carbon. It might be. I just can't tell. If you know what this is, I'd like you to tell me. Even the blind nuts are in and they're straight. It looks very, very clean on the firewall. This has obviously been assembled with very deep attention to detail and process management. Okay, so that's the fuselage. Absolutely beautiful. I believe that's probably the nicest ARF balsa built up fuselage I've ever seen. I've never seen anything that was that free of mistakes or problems. I mean, it looks perfect. Okay, and then regarding the canopy, you know, I know the F3A guys would say, you don't put pilots in these, why waste the weight? And I would tend to agree. This is meant to be a competition plane, so you don't waste the space with trivialities like a pilot. That's just not what it is. In fact, these pattern planes aren't even really based on scale. The canopy is just, it's flawless. I mean, it's absolutely beautiful. I really wish I knew how they did the covering like that. There's got to be some kind of computer-aided cutting going on there, but it's flawless. I mean, that canopy is perfect. Very, very nice. All right, let's take a look at the wings. Same deal on the wings. The ailerons are pre-slotted and hinged, but they're not glued, so it gives you opportunity to make adjustments. And you can tell by looking at that aileron surface, it's huge. I mean, that's At least 25% of the wing area, I would say. And the covering, no departure from what we saw on the fuselage. The covering is absolutely spectacular. Very clean and detailed, no wrinkles, no holes, no bubbles, I mean, the people who are building these are experts. There's no doubt about it. And it's a complex design too. This is not a straight up easy, you know, cut a few lines of monocoat and stick them on. I mean, this is a very complex design, and they've just done a beautiful job with it. All right, the wing root, and then the bottom of the wing with a completely different approach. And again, that's for orientation purposes. So nice stripe pattern on the bottom. That will be spectacularly good for orientation, no doubt about that. The shrink covering around the servo mounts has been removed. The shrink covering around the control horns has been removed. They've done a lot of the stuff that gets messy when you're building these planes. It's just ready to be put together. Spectacular job on the wing. I absolutely approve of that. Beautiful work. Really is nice work. And then here's the port wing. All I can say is I hope the camera's capturing this for you guys, but this workmanship on this is just superb. That's the only word I can use. It's superb. And then here's the bottom. Again, servo cutouts are completed, and the control horn cutouts are completed. There's another thing you see on a lot of ARFs. You can really tell where the care is made is where the spars meet the sheeting. The more hastily assembled ARFs, you'll see that they don't always sand that perfectly flat, so you see these little ridges. And on this plane, there's nothing. That's perfectly smooth. That's very, very good attention to detail. You can just tell. So yeah, you're going to pay extra for this plane, but buddy, I can tell you from where I'm sitting right now, it's worth the extra money. The quality is just there. Okay, and here's the horizontal stabilizer and elevator. I don't know if they're using any kind of torque rod arrangement. I don't know what they're using in there for reinforcements, but there's no torque rod that's visible, which is good. I've never been a fan of those. And again, same deal. It's pre-slotted and hinged, but you have to glue the hinges in place after you assemble. It has to be separated in order to put the airplane together. And again, I mentioned earlier on the rudder, I would show you on the vertical stabilizer, this is an airfoil. So if you look at the side profile, you can see it's not just a flat piece of balsa. This is an airfoil. Very elegant, very nicely done. I can't say enough about the quality of this plane so far. I'm blown away, to be honest with you. Blown away. Okay, and here's the canopy. This is another one of those ones on cheaper, more mass-produced kits where you can really find problem areas. And I do see a couple little, we're just going to call them nitpicks, but here's an example on this silver striping right there. But look how small of an issue that is. There's a little bit of a bleed right there on that silver stripe. But that's it. I mean, that is nitpicky. You know, that is definitely nitpicky. The rest of the stripes look very, very good. I can tell you one thing, I couldn't do this. That's a fact. I couldn't do that. And how many times have you guys heard me say, you got to have ventilation? So look, they've got ventilation here, here, here. Oh, and I forgot to show you on the bottom of the plane. Look at the freaking holes going through there. This is what I'm talking about. This is a company that, from an engineering standpoint, they got it figured out. And not only do they put the holes there, but there's also a windbreak. I don't know if you're going to be able to see that or not. But there's also a windbreak right there, which forces the air out, down, and out. So, I mean, they've really done the engineering on this thing. I mean, again, I don't mean to gush, but I just like quality. And from the looks of things, this is a very, very nice quality piece. And even with, that's another one that's one of my favorites. When you're looking at cheaper ARFs, you can always tell how good they are on things like graphics with how good the graphics line up on the cowl. But if you look at this, I'm looking at these silver pinstripes and the blue and red, and I can tell you once I spend just a few minutes getting it aligned, everything lines up all the way top to bottom. Very, very good. I mean, that's very impressive to be able to do that. I have a lot of ARFs where they only use two colors and they don't line up from side to side. So anyway. Yeah, that looks really nice. All right, now the wing tube, this is not fiberglass. This is definitely carbon fiber. Super, super light, and you know carbon is very strong. So this is another reason you're paying a little bit more for a plane like this. And then the gear, check out the gear. The carbon fiber gear too. And here's the other gear. All right, so the landing gear just slides in on the side right here and then screws into one of those yellow reinforced plates. You see that black is inside? That's the landing gear, and that straps into that reinforcement plate down there at the bottom. Man, that is a ridiculously nice airplane. I mean, the engineering on that thing is top shelf. It really is. All right, wheel pants. I'm going to leave these, but I'm just going to assume that these are painted just as well as everything else that's done on this plane, but there are a couple of wheel pants. Here's the bag of hardware. There's a couple of wing screws, screws to put the rest of the plane together. Oh, here's another one that lets you know. They use ball links on their connections, so their control rods are ball links, and they use a composite horn that actually only has one hole. So they're going to tell you where you want that connected on this control horn. Okay, before I bought the plane, of course, I went out and read the instructions on the web. They provide the manual on their website, but they also provide a nice printed copy. And just like with any other ARF, just take your time, read through it, make sure you're paying attention to what's going on, and you got a nice little guide to go with the assembly process. And then, not to be outdone, the tail wheel also has a carbon fiber support. So this is what the carbon fiber there is what screws onto the airframe, and then the metal piece screws onto the rudder. A couple of wheels, a couple of button head screws for I'm not sure what, probably landing gear, and a very simple decal sheet, nothing to it. I ordered some Emax ES08 MA2 Metal Gear analog servos that I'll be using. These are 12-gram servos, and the dimensions on these match the dimensions of the servos they recommend in the book, so I expect they should fit without any real issue. I do have to wait a little while to do a build review. It will not be like a next day thing. Because of the type of plane this is, being a precision plane, I will be taking this build just a little bit slower. I want to make sure it's put together correctly. So just be patient with me. We are working through some issues out there in the larger community right now, so getting parts and equipment takes a little bit longer. But as soon as I can, I will get this put together, and I'll get the build video put up as soon as possible. Now, before everyone goes, I just want to let you know that with everything that's happening in the world right now, I hope that you're being safe and that you're following the guidelines and that you're practicing that social distancing. And if you do get a chance to go to the field, don't touch people, man. Stay away. You know, keep that 6-foot thing. Don't touch other people's stuff. Just try and minimize your contact. I hope everyone comes through it okay. My best thoughts and prayers are with the community here on RC Video Reviews. All right, I hope you enjoyed the content. If you're not a subscriber, I definitely appreciate if you join us. If you are a subscriber, keep telling your friends, keep interacting with the videos, thumbs up, thumbs down. And I appreciate the time you guys spend communicating with me and participating in the channel. That's all I've got for today. Hope you have a great day. Take it easy. All right, hopefully you've been following along. I mean, this is obviously